Have you ever seen the musical Chicago? It's one of my favorites. Between Bob Fosse's legendary choreography and Candler Eben Fosse's book, I have to say that it's one of my favorites. And I'm sure I'm not alone because it's the longest running show on Broadway. I love it for lots of reasons, but especially because it leaves room for a lot of kinds of performers, especially ones who might not be otherwise cast. Right now, Jinx Monsoon is playing Mama. If you know, you know. And I love it after Queen Latifah's film depiction. Anyway, if you're a Broadway nerd, you probably have your favorite songs from the show. But I will share with you my favorite, which is, honestly, the inspiration for this section of my book, God Is. The song is We Both Reached for the Gun. And don't worry, there's nothing in my reflection that's going to glorify violence. It's more the image that it evokes. So in the film adaptation, you can see Richard Gere's character named Billy, a lawyer of the successful but slimy type defense attorney, standing above his client, Renee Zellweger's character named Roxy. And the choreography turns Billy into the puppeteer while he's hoping Roxy will be his puppet. And so the song goes, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, they both, oh yes, they both, oh yes, they both reach for the gun, the gun, the gun, the gun. Oh yes, they both reach for the gun, for the gun. And what I love about that scene is that it's choreographed so that the cynical sleazeball is directing the youngish woman. And when I wrote that part of the book, I had that very image in mind. Why? Because so many times we intentionally or not imagine God to be a Billy, like a puppet master, moving our arms, our legs, our actions as if we have no say. But God is not a puppeteer. God directs, God inspires, but God does not force. The human mind plans the way, but the Lord directs the steps. That's crucially important. Why? Because if you think of God as a puppeteer, then you'll think that everything that happens, everything like acts of violence and domination, like oppression and trafficking, like abuse and lying and all of the bad things that happen, if God were a puppeteer, you could blame all that on God, which would be a mistake. The opening words of the Bible teach us differently. Our origin story from Genesis teaches us differently. God is active and real and blessing and redeeming every moment of every day, but lots of things that happen go against what God intends. That's the source of suffering. God's not forcing you into anything. God has nothing to do with shackles and chains. Instead, God breaks chains. So in your reflections and discussion, I invite you to consider, have you ever seen someone displace blame for wrongdoing from themselves to God? In your personal life, politically, how long did it take for you to notice that this was wrong? And how do you see God setting you free today?